In this video, you will learn how to add and subtract radicals. Now, when you add and subtract radicals, the concept of addition and subtraction is the same as when combining like terms with variables. So for example, with variables, if you had 2x plus 5x plus 7y, what you are doing is you're looking for like terms. So here we see that 2x and 5x are like terms because they both have an x. So we can combine the 2x and the 5x to get 7x. So this would be 7x plus 7y. Now, same exact concept with radicals, but maybe instead of x and y, we have a square root of 3 and a square root of 2. So for example, we have 2 times the square root of 3 plus 5 times the square root of 3 plus 7 times the square root of 2. Notice the similarity between these two expressions. The only thing different is the x is now a square root of 3 and the y is a square root of 2. So to combine, we do the exact same thing, because remember, with the variables are just representing some number, right? So over here we actually have that physical number to be the square root of 3. So when I combine like terms, I look for radicals that are exactly the same. So we see both of these have a square root of 3, so those can combine. When I combine, I take the 2 plus 5 to get 7, so we have 7 square roots of 3. And then plus, over here, the 7 square root of 2 cannot combine because those are not like terms. Those are two different radicals. So right here is my simplified form of the original expression. Here's another example. We have 4 times the square root of 5 plus 6 times the square root of 3 minus 2 times the square root of 5. So again, when you're simplifying, you look for like terms. So notice right here and right here, these both have a square root of 5. Those are like terms. So when I subtract, I have the 4 minus 2, that gives me 2 square root of 5 right here. Then plus the 6 square root of 3 cannot combine because that is a different radical than the square root of 5. So this is my simplified form of the original expression. Here's another example. Now we have 2 times the square root of 3 minus 5 times the cube root of 3 plus the square root of 3. So again, we want everything to be identical. So like right here, the 2 square root of 3 and the 1 square root of 3, those are like terms because those are identical. The radicals are identical. Whereas here, this middle term, it's not the same thing because we have this little 3 up here, which makes this a cube root. Alright, so this one cannot combine with the other 2. But the 2 I've underlined can combine. So we have 2 square root of 3 plus, and there's an assumed 1 here. There's 1 square root of 3. So 2 plus 1 gives me 3. So I have 3 times the square root of 3. And then this minus 5 cube root of 3 does not combine. That just goes here in the end. And this would be my simplified form of the original expression. Here is another example where at first glance we do not have like terms, right? The square root of 12 minus the square root of 27. However, both of these can be simplified. So if you can simplify, you want to simplify first, because once you do that, then you might find that you have like terms. So here, this square root of 12, you can simplify this, and there's different ways to do that. But choosing this way, we can factor down to get 4 times 3. Then 4 is 2 times 2. So 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. Alright, so I can write the square root of 12 as the square root of 2 times 2 times 3. And then the 27 can break down as 3 times 9, and 9 is 3 times 3. So 27 I can write as a product of 3 times 3 times 3. And that is what we see typed up right here. So at this point, now that I've factored down everything, I can pull numbers out of the radical. So right here, we see a group of two 2's. So for each group, I pull out one item. So I have one group, so I pull out one 2. All right, so now these are gone. Now I have 2 times the square root of 3. Minus, over here I see a group of 3's. So I have one group, so I pull out one 3. And now these are gone. I'm left with a 3 on the outside, and then this 3 left over on the inside. So now notice, after I've simplified, these are like terms. All right, these both have a square root of 3. So to combine, I do 2 minus 3 to get negative 1. So I have negative 1 times the square root of 3. And we don't need to write the 1 in the front. That is the same thing as writing a negative square root of 3. So this here is my simplified form of the original expression. So don't forget to simplify first by pulling out numbers out of the radical if possible. And then from there you might find that you have like terms that can combine. Now for one more example. Here we have the square root of 18 plus 2 times the square root of 3. Now again, the 18 over here, we can break that down and pull out some things out of the radical. So the square root of 18, we can break down the 18 as 2 times 9. 9 can break down as 3 times 3. So the square root of 18 I can write as the square root of 3 times 3 times 2. Alright, so we have 2 3's and a 2. So here we see 2 3's. So because we have a group of 3's, I can pull out 1 3. So one group, I pull out 1 3. I now have 3 times the square root of 2 plus 2 times the square root of 3. Now, in this situation, we have simplified the first radical, but notice nothing can combine. We have the square root of 2 and the square root of 3. Those are different things, which means I cannot combine those terms. So what that means is that this here is my final answer. So there are times that when you simplify, when you pull out numbers, it does not always mean that they will be able to combine with something else. And in this case, we see that happening. But either way, we want to pull out those numbers to make sure, and this is my simplified form. And that concludes our lesson for today. We will see you next time.